Hi everybody, how are you? I hope you have a nice time and day or night. I'm Aryan Rasoulipour. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about Hafez Shirazi, a very famous Persian poet throughout the Persian history of literature. Okay, let me discuss about his life, biography and his poems. Hafez is a common point of connection for all Persian speakers because a book of Hafez's poetry or Hafez's sonnets or ghazals is found in the most Persian speakers' homes, especially particularly in Iran. And also Hafez should be criticized in accordance of the period that he was living and his era. In the point of view of his supporters, Hafez is an enlightened, intellectual, or free-spirited person, while in the view of his opponents, he is a person unfaithful to the God and religion, and also pleasure seeker. This is the point of view of his opponents versus his supporters and followers and fans. And now one more big question. What do you think? Who Hafez was in your view? And who was Hafez exactly? According to some researchers that is done and held by some Persian literature researchers, there isn't any Persian poet has expressed their personal life and era as completely as Hafez done. Hafez was living in the last years of the Ilkhanate Mughal or Mongolian rule on Iran. And also I should mention that point in that period of time that Hafez was living in the Fars. Fars province was an autonomous part of Iran that was by the local monarchies, local government that was autonomous from the central government of Mongolia. And the Fars was governed by Atabakan in the early years of the Hafez life. At that time, Shiraz was one of the most religious centers and cities among all Iranian and Persian cities. And I should mention that point that here in that period of time, the prevalent religion in Iran was Islam Sunni or Sunni Islam. And in that period of time, I should mention that Hafez and his families were Shafi'i is Sunni Muslims. According to the statement of the famous and well-known Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta, Shiraz and Damascus were the most beautiful and eye-catching and very delightful cities among all Islamic countries and states. Additionally, whereas the Shiraz was center of Islamic movement and was also a religious city, it was center of producing wine and prostitution. Besides its traditional part, it has a prostitutional zone that they produced wine, and also they produced some prostitutional movement inside the city. And they were very strong among the governor's elements. The year of the burning of the Hafez is not evident for all researchers totally, but the most researchers think and believe he is mostly was born in 1320. And also in that time that Hafez grew up in Shiraz, the atmosphere of the city influenced very much his works. The Hafez complete name was Khaja Muhammad Shamsuddin Hafez Shirazi. Khaja Muhammad Shamsuddin Hafez Shirazi, excuse me. And his nickname was Hafez or Lisan al-Ghaib. Lisan al-Ghaib means the secretful language, or somebody who knows some secrets before the people reveal it by themselves. There is no information evident for us about the Hafez parents and also siblings, but we know that he was married and he had a son that in the teenage ages he was passed away, and this Hafez was mourning for a period of time and sad about his passing away. In the some of the references they mentioned the Hafez wife was named Shah Nabat. And also I again repeat that tip that in the most references they referred and state and allegates that Hafez was Muslim and Sunni Shafi'i, but there isn't any available information evidently whether he was a practical religious person or only adherence to this religion and fake Muslim or fake religious person. It's not evident at all for us. The Hafez ideology about religious or any types of ideology like secularism and about his faith and beliefs is not very evident and very brilliant to us nowadays. There are many doubtful tips about it and very debateful. We can debate very much whether Hafez was practical Muslim, whether he was idolist, whether he was atheist, whether he was, I don't know, secular or any types of, or deism, any types that you can think. And there are many supporting documents and researches behind all of types of religious beliefs that could be referred to Hafez Shirazi. According to Hafez poems, Hafez's profession was mostly poetry. Besides, he was working as a court and he was working in court official of royal system or our royal court of Fars. Besides his poetry movement and poetry professions, so he had two professions. Firstly, he was poet, and secondly, he was court official clerk in the Hafez in the royal Fars court. About his childhood, we know that clearly that Hafez had memorized all the Quran entirely, and he was familiar with holy books of other religions like Zoroastrianism, Christianity, Bible, Judaism, and Torah, and all others religions that were existed and now are existed right now in the world. So he was memorized entire Quran and had a very depth-handed information about other religions, other beliefs. And two of the most important instructors of Hafez in the childhood was Khaja Qawamuddin and Khaja Majduddin Abdullah. They were two most important instructors and teachers of Hafez on that period that could elevate Hafez's position among society and the people and the royal system on that period of time. In the early years of the life of Hafez, Shah Abu Ishaq or Sheikh Abu Ishaq was a friend of Hafez, and also this is evident in his poems. In the most poems that he was poetrized in his first early years of his profession, he was Fandi Sheikh Abu Ishaq. In his point of view, in the Hafez point of view and philosophy and poems, Rendan or types of libertarianism movement in Shiraz on that period were people involved in winemaking and prostitution, but they were praised by Hafez due to their fantastical view of or specific beliefs about their honesty and lack of hypocrisy. Hafez usually and mostly considered himself from the Rendan or authentic followers of them. In Hafez poems, Rendans or libertanists in Shiraz were mostly earthly lovers, and through love of opposite sex and earthly loves, pleasure and wine, they come to understand the causability of word. So these Rendans would prefer and had a preference to discover, reveal the causality and origin of the word by throughout the wine, pleasurability and pleasures and sex and any types of tendencies, earthly tendencies. Unlike the other Persian poets on that period of time and the most of the times, in Hafez poems, Sufis are highly hypocritical and criticalized and portrayed by Hafez. In Hafez points of view, Sufis are dogmas and dogmatic characters with narrow-minded beliefs. Due to the unstable social and political condition in Iran throughout the Hafez era, the political and philosophical and social views of Hafez were often expressed covertly through ambiguity and also allusion and other literary derives and devices and figures of speech and types of such things. In the last years of rule of the Sheikh Abu Ishaq on Shiraz, the ruler of the Yazd, Amir Muzaffaruddin Al Muzaffar, Amir Mubarezuddin Al Muzaffar, the ruler of Yazd, attacked Shiraz and overthrew Sheikh Abu Ishaq in the year that Hafez was 25 years old. And Sheikh Mubarezuddin Al Muzaffar, establishing on that time this dynasty of Al Muzaffar in Shiraz, when the Hafez was 25 years old, as I mentioned before. And we should know that the Hafez hated and disliked Mubarezuddin Al Muzaffar, but he composed his most important and beautiful poems on that period of time when he was disagreed with the ruling manner of the Mubarezuddin Al Muzaffar. Sheikh Amir Mubarezuddin Al Muzaffar was an unstable psychological character in the borderline between the religious beliefs and infidelity beliefs, and he was shifting and changing between these ideas and systems. By the people of Shiraz, the Sheikh Mubarezuddin Al Muzaffar, titled and nicknamed as Muhtasib, or somebody who is religiously censorized people, but religiously. Sheikh Mubarezuddin Al Muzaffar, he was very narrow-minded and brutal, and he was wished to someday exhume Sadi's grave because he believes he was unfaithful to Islamic beliefs that was in his mind, but he didn't become successful anyway. Hafez was contemporary in the same period of Obaid Zakani, Khajavi Kermani, and also Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi, but mostly he was in the same as same as the ages of Obeid Zakani and Khajavi Kermani, because when he was 30 years old, the Maulana, as I think, he was passed away based on my research. So the most time of his lifespan was simultaneous to the life of Obeid Zakani and Khajavi Kermani. Amir Mubarak-ed-Din Al Muzaffar had a son who was named Shah Shuja. Shah Shuja was his son and protested against him, and finally in a Ramadan he overthrown the Amir Mubarak-ed-Din and named himself as a monarch of the fast instead of him. So Shah Shuja was the next king and the third king of the time of the lifetime of the Hafez era. Or in the other word, he was the third monarch that Hafez seen by in his life. Initially, Shah Shuja had a good relationship and close-knit relationship with Hafez. After some time, the very warm relationship between the Shah Shuja and Hafez deteriorated gradually, and Shah Muhammad was the Shah Shuja's brother, that he was against him, and as brutal as their fathers, Amir Mubarak-ed-Din, he overthrown Shah Shuja in this period of time and named himself as a fourth king of the Hafez lifespan and new monarch of the Fars province on that period of time. And this dynasty, Al Muzaffar, was not only ruled on Fars, they were ruling on the Kerman province, Yazd, and some parts of Isfahan and Hormozgan on that period of times. Finally, Shah Shuja, after 2 years, returned to throne and Shiraz, and also overthrown his brother and exiled him. But the second period of the Shah Shuja's monarchy and ruling as a governor of Shiraz wasn't as warm as the first period of time with Hafez, and the relationship was again, because of the previous events, deteriorated very and destroyed totally. And we should notice that eventually Shah Shuja exiled Hafez also to Yazd because of his cold and opponents' beliefs against Hafez, and vice versa. And also Shah Shuja ruled for 20 years after his reign, coming back from exile, and in his second reign of monarchy. Finally, Hafez died and passed away in the 1390 year in Shiraz. And Hafez Diwans, or poems collection, compiled and written after his death. And another question we should notice here, Hafez was a believer in free-willing authority, or he was determinist? Okay, let me respond to this very important question. There isn't any definitive and exact answer and response to this question, because some of the poems refer to a deterministic view of the Hafez, while other ones have a tinge of the free-willing beliefs inside themselves. It should be noted that in Hafez's period of life, in the Hafez era, deterministic views by Asharis or Ash'aris were prevalent in society of Iran, and in his anti-religious poems, Hafez uses a fantastic perspective in order to these beliefs. And in Hafez's beliefs, factors not under his controls are dealt through determinism, and in cases under his control, through free-willing authorities. It's a good, very psychological tip that Hafez believes in it. Himmat or endeavor is a keyword in Hafez poems that express his absolute peak of human's free willness. And I should add these tips here as a critical point regarding determinism. There are two types of engagement with the concept of determinity by Persian poets and Persian poems. One of the mechanism is submission and the other is acceptance, and Hafez is no exception to this rule. Where the concepts of Mughbacche or Zoroastrian boy were a Zoroastrian or followers of other religion? It's another good question that we should notice about Hafez poems. And also, does them any definite answer to this question? And also, we should notice, does the mention of Mughbacche as Hafez earthly beloved or lover indicate the poets and poems homosexual tendencies? It's nobody knows, but we should notice the dominant answer for researchers in the field of Persian literature is that three concepts. That is, all these concepts are symbolic because through the Iranian society in Hafez era, the traditional Islam was dominant among the people and very vigorous and powerful. And to prevent readers in society from conflicting with Hafez and potential consequences thereafter, Hafez attributed two heretical concepts to followers of other religions. It's a very good technique that Hafez is very used in his poems. In the other word, it was highly useful in his poems collection, and there is a tinge of it also in most of these works. Sometimes some concepts like Mughbacche, Sufi, Pir or elder, or Pir Mogan or elder of Magiz are paradoxical concepts throughout the Hafez works. Hafez poems are mainly divided in three types of categories: romantic ones, mystical ones, and also social ones. Hafez in his romantic poems mainly refers to earthly loves and worldly pleasures, while in mystical poems refers to the divine tendencies. Hafez also was simultaneously influenced by figures such as Omar Khayyam, Mansur Hallaj, and also different poems like Attar Neishaburi. And despite the fact that the spiritual path of these individuals were also always different and even belong to different period of times, and they were not contemporaries to Hafez period. So, Rand or libertarianism movement of the libertarianism movement's followers in Shiraz and Zahid or ascetics are always in opposition of each other in Hafez works, and Rand and Zahid as a liberties and ascetics in Hafez poems are equivalent to Adam and Eve story in Genesis, a story in opposition to angels. The angels in creation and Genesis in holy books are equivalent to Zahid in Hafez poetry, and Adam and Eve are the wrens. Because of the angels prostrated before Adam in the Genesis story in Quran, just the Zahid prostrates to the wren in Hafez poetry. It's very varied for all researchers. Also similar to Adam and Eve, wren in Hafez poetry goes from mosque to tavern, like Adam and Eve that goes from paradise to land. Hafez, like Omar Khayyam, emphasizes the importance of a present moment here and now and enjoying this world, similar to philosophies of Stoics and Epicureanism in ancient Greece. And the other important and the last but not least important question in this video that I want to respond is that what is the role of wine in Hafez poetry? Real wine or mystical wine? Or combination of both, maybe. In some Hafez ghazals or sonnets, wine is literally red grape wine, and while in others are symbolic one, and in some others there are alludes to both of them. Sometimes some of the Hafez sonnets are also carry and contains concepts like self-knowledge for readers. That's it. Thank you for attending on my YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe my channel and push notification for further video that I'm gonna publish throughout this channel. Until the next time, farewell, goodbye, keep reading and enjoying.